How you doing, Lowell?
Oh. Hi, April.
Hello, how is everyone?
Good, how are you doing?
Oh, someone asked me
Hello.
today about minutes of council, that they're not being posted.
Hasn't
They
this
said the
weather been a
video
yo-yo? 70 degrees, then we're back down again, cold again.
October is what
Well,
someone told me
that's
today.
what Jack's working on.
Yeah, he's working on it.
Well, that's good. I'll let him know that. Because I'm like, well, I will
We're
ask.
reading.
I read it enough.
Are you having a good day?
I am. It's good.
I was gonna say, well, are you okay,
It's
Courtney?
good. Additional literature
Okay, thank you.
for leisurely reading.
Okay. Thank you.
My glasses are dirty.
I got
Yeah,
you the codes,
mine
right?
too.
Let your voice out.
We're here.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'll call the meeting, special council meeting for February 22nd to order. And please stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Be seated. Courtney did a head count. Everybody's present with guest and April Davis from the auditor's office and Jim Pudoff. I'd like to introduce her, and if she wants to say anything to start the meeting, that'll be fine.
Again, my name is April Davis. I'm the Chief Project Manager for Local Government Services, the Southwest region. And this is Jim Pudoff. He's an Assistant Project Manager. And we're the two that have really been working with Mayor Martin and the Fiscal Officer Courtney as far as working on the recovery plan. And so I want to thank you all for calling a special meeting this evening to go through that. And that is what the gist of our meeting tonight is going to be. I'm going to kind of go over some things as far as what's in the higher revised code, as far as what the details of a financial recovery plan should look like. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jim to walk you through. I know you all have had a chance to look at the recovery plan, but just to go through the recovery plan itself, point out how it does meet the requirements of the higher revised code 11806. And then, you know, if there's any questions anybody has or any discussion, that's what we're here for tonight, is to answer any questions you might have, and again, just to walk you through the process.
Very good. Thank you. We'll open the meeting with Resolution 2018-15. This is a resolution to adopt a 5-year financial plan and declaring it an emergency. So I would need a motion to suspend the rules for 2018-15.
You have a motion, sir.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Lowell,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Now I need a motion to place it on the first, second, and third reading.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, before we do a roll call vote, it's comment time about this resolution. Does anybody have any questions in reference to this particular resolution? No. Do you want to present anything, Jim?
We'll go ahead and we'll go through the recovery plan, and that way we'll have it on the floor, and then if anybody has questions once we've gone through it, and then we'll proceed from there.
Okay.
Okay, you all should have a copy of just a little thing from the higher revised code that has section 11806. This is the section of the higher revised code that talks about a detailed financial plan. We refer to that as a recovery plan. And I just merely wanted to give you this section of the code and then highlight some of the areas in here so that you're comfortable and understand when Jim presents the plan itself that you work to put together to show you how it does meet what is in the Ohio Revised Code. So as you know, we're here to meet that 120-day deadline. Your 120 days is due February 28th. That's 120 days from the first commission meeting. So next week is when this plan is actually due. So thank you all for your diligence in working on this and actually meeting the deadline, but also getting it done before it's actually due. So we certainly appreciate that. It makes our jobs a whole lot easier. And as long as everything is approved tonight, just so that you folks are aware, what we will do for you is we will submit the signed recovery plan to the commission chair as soon as possible so that it is there before that 28th deadline. So again, looking at what's in our Ohio Revised Code, if you just look down under A1, the first thing, actions to be taken by a municipal corporation, eliminate all fiscal emergency conditions determined to exist. So your recovery plan has to address, you know, the things that basically got you in trouble, and you will see that this plan does take care of that. The second thing is satisfy any judgments, past due accounts payable, fringe benefits, and the sort. I think that you have all been, I guess, notified from Madison Plains local schools of those dollars that are owed to Madison Plains. So we've taken those into account with you as far as your recovery plan. Eliminate the deficit in the deficit funds. So there we're talking about your Moving Ohio Forward Fund and also your general fund. Your 5-year forecast actually shows those funds going positive. If it did not, we would not be sitting here having this meeting. Number 4, restore to construction funds and other special funds monies that were used for purposes not within the purpose of such funds. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into it. 5, balance the budgets, avoid future deficits. Again, that's the purpose of your 5-year forecast, to show that you're basically living within your means and you're not, incurring any further deficits. And then 6, avoid any fiscal emergency condition in the future. Again, your 5-year forecast shows that you are addressing the issues and that you're not going to have deficits, within the next 5 years after you go positive. So the other thing I wanted to point out to you is in Section D, the approximate dates of the commencement, I can tell, progress and completion of actions, and you'll see that in your recovery plan, where you've got your assumptions, the actions that you're proposing to take, estimated dates to take that action, and then there's a column for when you've completed that action. So the things that you put in your recovery plan, it's not just fun writing, it's things that you're going to be held to. So it has start dates and end dates, and you'll see that within the actual document itself. Last couple things I just want to point out, if you flip the page and you go to letter B, and I'm not going to read all this, just know that within this section, that the financial recovery plan is required to be updated annually. So at a minimum, once a year, you're going to update this plan. In your first year or two of fiscal emergency, I would expect it's probably going to be updated more than once a year, because the first year that you're in, you're still just working through the progress, and Jim will talk a little bit about this when he goes through things. There's a lot of stuff that you folks haven't seen in the detail that it's now being provided to you, and as things come about and other things are made known, there may need to be changes. This is a living, breathing document. It can change at any given time based on the circumstances. So your recovery plan is only as good as the facts you have right now as you put it together. So 60 days from now, if there's something that comes up and a change needs to be made, you're permitted to do that. Everything staying the same, you would at least have to update once a year. Let's see. Section D just says that the plan can be amended, which, you know, I talked about a little bit. And I think that that's really all I want to point out as far as what's in the code. There's some more verbiage in there as far as, you know, if the plan were to be rejected from the commission, but I don't expect that to happen with Mount Sterling's plan. It looks like you have a very viable plan, so I don't expect us to have to deal with any of that. With that, does anybody have any questions?
Do we ever have to update maybe twice, maybe? Was there a chance that ever happening?
Like twice within a year?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely possible.
Okay,
That's
okay.
absolutely possible. You could, let's say you could get, maybe have like a grant that comes in for something else that would require some matching funds that may need to come from your general fund. So absolutely.
Okay, I want to make sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you're not held to, right now, once this plan is approved, the village will be held to what's in this plan for your general fund and your Moving Ohio Forward Fund. But that fund is really just going to go positive because you're going to transfer money from the general fund. But the appropriations are held in the general fund to what is in this plan. So tomorrow something happens and you decide, oh, you know what, we're going to spend $50,000 on something we didn't have in the plan. You're not permitted to do that, and that's what our role as financial supervisors is, to monitor the village, make sure that you stay within the context of that recovery plan, and then to guide you if you do need to make changes, to be the facilitator between the village and the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. So what happens is if you make a change to the recovery plan, council can take action to amend the recovery plan, but it doesn't go into effect until the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission has approved the new plan.
Okay, thank you. I was wanting to make sure on that, but thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
The large capital A and then the small two I's, I would say, satisfy any judgments passed to, and you mentioned Madison Plains.
Yes.
Is that in the budget here someplace?
Yes, it is, and Jim will talk about that. It is included.
So I'll get to that here in a few
Okay,
minutes.
I expect that.
So
Anything else before I turn the show over to Jim? Okay, I'm going to let Jim go ahead and go through the recovery plan that he has worked with Mayor Martin and Courtney, and I'll come back.
okay, you have the recovery plan. If you flip to the second page, this goes over like the objectives of the plans and talks about the budget process, and then the format for doing the appropriations. It sets the timeline to when you should start working on these things. So that's what the pages 2 and 3 are discussing. You know,
And the timelines follow what's already required in Ohio budgetary law. So this is just making sure that you understand and that, you know, you're going to hold yourselves accountable for following Ohio budgetary law and those required timelines.
So that's what the pages in 2 and 3 are discussing with points A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then when you flip to page 4 is where we start the plan where we talk about your general fund revenue assumptions. You had talked about for 18 you passed an ordinance for 18, no money was being reserved for capital improvements, and then in 19, 3% on up. So we document, well, I'm sorry, I take that back. The income tax, we talk about that because Courtney talked to Rita, and they said you will have an increase of about $10,000. Well, that equates over time 1.3 to 1.4% increase a year. So we put that in here. It began in 18, and it's an ongoing item. It won't be completed until we know it's true. But it'll probably be completed once you come out because it's held true. And then we talk about all your other revenue items. Miscellaneous revenue, you had some refunds of prior year. That's not budgeted, we don't expect any, so we just flatlined the rest of your revenues to be consistent with the prior year. They could change if if the state decides to give more local government revenue monies out, we would have to change this. So that's what we had for revenues. For the expenditures, I want to point out that right at the very first thing, starting in 2018, working with Courtney, we changed the codes to more accurately reflect your departments and what services the village provides. Because when we get back to the Excel spreadsheet, you're going to see a lot of expenditure lines that are zeros. We adjusted them to reflect, here's the departments, here's what we're actually doing. And then we go on and, you know, I know Courtney's got a contract coming due. We wanted to discuss that because it is showing increases. And then we also talked about you eliminated the road supervisor's position. And then you've eliminated some items that aren't needed, like clothing allowance, or you're just going to monitor your expenditures to keep expenditures low. So we want to document that in here so that's what the commission will see. And then we point out the other financing sources. You had special items last year when we received the restitution for Mr. Johnson. It went there. And when we receive any other restitutions, it's going on that line. That's where it'll see on your financial statements you will get from Courtney at your monthly meetings. So when that hits, you'll know you've received some sort of restitution. And then she'll be able to explain at your meeting. And then we flip to page 5 and we get to your actions. The first action was to collect restitution and or bonds on former village employees. You've got Vicky Sheets, Lena,
Cydrus.
You know, they had a finding for recovery from that special audit. You want to try and collect restitution and or the bonds from the insurance company. Courtney is working on that. This is where we talk about the income tax. You've changed your resolution, you changed what's being set aside, we documented it. You did pass the resolution on January 22nd, so we document you completed that. That was done. Also, you had an ODNR grant where you'd done work and nobody completed the paperwork to collect the grant portion of it. Courtney did complete it. It was completed. You got the money in February. That one's been completed. And then you also had where you wanted to reinstitute a contract for park maintenance. That's in there. I know that was been approved. And then we added this. You have the enterprise zone agreement with the schools. You owe the schools money for that, so we put that in here. That's part of, it affects your recovery plan. You need to eliminate the deficit in the Moving Ohio Forward. That's a transfer. So we document, hey, that's a transfer in here. It hasn't been done yet. At some point here, probably in the next few weeks, we will do that. We will work with Courtney. She'll do a transfer. You've eliminated one deficit. And then we talked about Moving Ohio Forward. What are you going to do that? The only way to get rid of that is to transfer money in. So that's your actions. And then the next page is just the assertions of the recovery plan. And this is where the mayor will sign this. And then we'll move on to the actual numbers of this report on page 8. When you're on that, you see we start out with property and other local taxes. Courtney did talk to the county and they said your property taxes will remain the same for the 5 years. They aren't expecting any increases. So that's why you see $27,500 for all 5 years. For your municipal income tax, last year you received almost $535,000. We started out 18 with using 17 as the estimate. So we put $535,000. Rita said it'd be a $10,000 a year increase. So I increased it, but when I did this, it was increased by 75% of the $10,000 because at the time, 25% was still being set aside. So I split it up between the two different income taxes, and I'll explain more when we get back towards that. So you will see income tax going up $7,500 each year on this line. Your local government distribution money, that's been fairly flatlined. That's what the county gives you from the state. We flatlined that. Mostly everything else, we just left it at flat. This is what it was in the prior year. Now, if it changes, we get to November, December, and you're went through, hey, we're getting more in, you need to change because you will change this. We will make changes if the revenues increase. We can change it then. So it's always nice to see revenue come in higher than what we budgeted.
Of course.
And then we'll get to the expenditures. The security of your persons and properties. That is your contract with the sheriff's department. You'd always budgeted $260,000. When you look at the prior year's history, in 2017 you paid $255,000. And 2016 it's $385,000. I did not go back and research that. That came right off your system. It could have been some other items were paid from that line.
So, just so that you understand, usually on recovery plans you have like 2 years of actual, so you can kind of see the trend as far as what you're projecting out. I can tell you, and I think Jim and Courtney will attest to this, in 2016 it is our belief that things were just being paid out of willy-nilly, whatever line item may have had money in the appropriation. So it is there just for you to get a sense of what the overall expenditures are, but I would not put any substance into the line items because, again, it appears that things were just getting paid out of whatever lines had the appropriations to cover it.
So then we get into, after your police enforcement, you have firefighting prevention. That was an old appropriation line that's been used in the past. The village doesn't have firefighting anymore, probably, or EMS, but for years it's been used. So, well, you don't have it, so we aren't going to use it. So we didn't budget anything for it anymore. And then when you flip to the next page, street lighting. Street lighting is a safety issue. That's why it's taped right here. And I worked with Courtney. We identified from the various bills that you get. We took, okay, you pay X number of dollars a month. We multiplied it by 12. That's how we came up with the number. I usually round it up to the nearest $100 just to make it not dealing with $1 issues. And that totals, so for 2018, you're going to spend $289,500 for security of persons and property for the year. Courtney did talk to the police department, or the sheriff's department, tried to get an amount. They did say that, yeah, there will be a slight increase, but they never fully responded with the dollar amount. So what's minimal? She chose $2,000. I don't know what the sheriff's thinking. That seems reasonable. So that's why we bumped it up in 19 to $262,000. So if they come back and have a larger number, we can change the plan down the road. Then we get into leisure time activity. This one had a lot of lines that they were just paying their bills out of.
Yeah.
This should just be really for your park. Your new contracted position for park maintenance. If you've been paying it all along, it would be here. We moved it to the bottom because it's part of your recovery plan, and you'll see it there because it's a recovery item. We need to look at the recovery items, how they affect. But you've always spent some money on operating supplies, repairs and maintenance, and equipment. You have $10,000 in equipment. That might draw a question, but that's what you had budgeted in the past. You know, we left it, tried to leave it the same. We cut some of them out, but we don't, I'm not the village expert. I don't know what you spend at your parks. So this might not be spent, but if you need to buy a new mower, to mow the park. That's what it is. So we went from having 10, 12 lines down to 4 or 5 lines to actually reflect, this is what you're spending the village's money on. And you also see a nice swimming pool. I think years ago, you used to have a swimming pool.
Yep.
Is that being brought back? No.
That's
Don't
a
start.
moment of the past.
Don't start.
In the past few years, they've always put appropriations in for the swimming pool, and that's where they would pay dues and fees. Your dues and fees got moved to a more appropriate area.
Yeah.
Which we'll see. Transportation, we have some expenditures in for 18, but that was to cover the supervisor's salary benefits up until the time you eliminated the position. And then for the rest of the year, I don't believe the village is going to have any maintenance supervisor, so we didn't show any appropriations for the remainder of the forecast. General government, this is everything else. First one we come to is mayor and administrative offices. In 17, you're going to see expenditures for administrator. That was John's salary before he was let go. And then you're not having a new village administrator, so we don't have anything budgeted for that. Your legal counsel, Mr. Pitstick, that's his salary. It's the mayor's salary. Your retirement, Medicare, and any other, if you had health insurance through it, that's where it would be paid for out of that little department. Your travel and transportation, that is, you know, if you go to a training, and there's a fee to go to the training, like local government officials conference, that can be paid for out of there. So for total mayor and administrative offices, you're going to have $56,200 for the year, and we flatlined that out throughout the 5 years because Courtney did talk to Mr. Pitstick, and he said he wasn't wanting any increases in pay. So we went with what he said. Legislative activities, that's the council's salary, your retirement, whether it's OPERS or Social Security, and your Medicare. So that's $9,400 for the 5 years of the recovery plan. Here, you used to have mayor's court at some point, or it was an appropriation. Well, we wiped that one out. Flipping the page, you come to the clerk. This is Courtney's area. Upon talking to her with the new contract and her increases, we did incorporate them into this recovery plan. So as you can see, it does increase each year, and we're basing it off of what we were told. And associated with that, her retirements, her medical, OPERS, healthcare, and I did want to point out UAN fees. While you're in fiscal emergency, the UAN fees have been waived. We do show in 2021 you're going to start paying those. That's when we, according to this recovery plan, project you will hopefully come out of fiscal emergency. The next section, land and buildings, that's just where things were appropriated and paid from. We do not have that, so we didn't budget anything. I would drop down to property tax collections. This is the county fees for when they charge you when they collect your property taxes and remit those. The auditor of state fees, auditing services, that is your audit fees. You will be having an audit this year, and it will cover for 2016 and 17. So we have it budgeted. You're on a 2-year audit cycle, so every other year you have an audit. So you will notice we have it $25,000 for 18, 20, and 22. We base that amount off of what you have paid already. You get your financial records straightened up, the cost should come down once your financial records are straight and the auditors are getting a lot better information. It'll make the job easier on them. Income tax collection fees, that's the fees Rita charge. That does increase as your collections go up, their fees go up. So that was a 3% fee, so as everything went up, we just increased it along with that. Then we have other general governmental funds. This is like your workers' comp, electricity, natural gas, telephone advertising, your insurance premiums. Here's your dues and fees. We do have a line here, dues and fees for your ADP fees, because they do your payroll. Some other contractual services, if you contract out other works, your materials and supplies. And then the payment to another political subdivision. You will notice starting in 2019, you see $40,000. That's approximately what you will be paying right now each year. It does increase as income taxes increase. That will probably increase, so we bumped it up a slight amount. Every other year we're bumping it up. So it's an estimate. We don't know truly what will happen, but that's our best estimate at this point in time. Debt service, back in 2016, you made a debt payment. I believe it was on the land. That has been paid off, or it's now in another fund that's actually got the land. The village is not allowed to issue any debt without the commission's approval. We're not saying you can't, it's just it's got to be something that the commission approves and actually worth a worthy project. You can't issue debt to eliminate your deficit. They won't allow that. But if you need to buy a truck because your truck blew up and it's no longer worth repairing, you can do that. You just got to go to the commission and show the need for that. But the commission will have to approve before you do any debt. So taking that all into...
Before you go on to the next page,
yes, sir.
In case they have a question about the payment to another political subdivision, the reason those are zeros is the fact that we're paying, that's what he meant when he said we're paying $116,000.
To make up for prior years.
Right. So $40,000 starting in 19 is what we owe them each year. So before then, we should be paying that every year. The 116 is catching up for three years. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, I want to talk about that a little bit. I don't think that's correct. Nobody can come up with the right figures on that.
Well, we reached out to Mr. Detweiler, the superintendent.
All right, and Mark worked with him on that, and they never came to a conclusion.
I came to the conclusion. I demanded that we have the numbers. So Detweiler provided it along with his treasurer and along with David Kale.
But we need to we need to be talking with Showa, because there's where the hang-up was. It has to do with the payroll, the $1 million payroll.
Yeah, what it does with the payroll, and Mark's had already drew up a letter of agreement, shall we say, that will be presented to you guys on Monday, showing that this is the amount that it was agreed upon.
I'd like to see that, yes, because he never could come up with the right amount. I've worked on that bill for more than 3 years and never could get anybody cornered.
Yeah, well, I reached out to Kaheen, the HR rep over there, a gentleman, I believe his name was Mike, and he provided those numbers, because what this enterprise zone agreement is the 10-year, and then it happens newly created jobs.
It has to do with $1 million salary.
That's right.
$1 million payroll.
And then Kaheen has to provide it to us.
And they did not.
Yeah, so I got with the gentleman, and he was able to provide those numbers. So that's how these.
Okay, do you have any proof that those are correct?
Yes.
Because, I'm sorry, but I've worked on that at least 3 years and couldn't get any results. And we had a meeting in here with Mark Pitstick, Detweiler, and the treasurer. They almost had a knockout, drag out on that, because they couldn't agree on it either.
They did.
We had this happen once before, and I went to bat, went over and talked to Boone, when Boone was over there, and we got it straightened out and got a different issue. But I think this warrants a lot of study, because $40,000 is a lot of money.
It is, but it's an amount that the school, Mark, Courtney, that they're satisfied with, as far as Jim is,
I'm
so,
not satisfied with it, Bill.
okay, all right.
I understand.
We'll take it
I've
up.
been working and fighting on this for those many
Well, the thing
years.
about it is that, you know, as far as legislation, I mean, we have an attorney to say this is the amount that we wish to pay you.
I understand that.
But what will happen is that if they give us false numbers, okay, so if we're debating, say Cahin gives us the wrong amount of numbers of opening of jobs.
Speaking of false numbers, I'm not so sure they knew how to figure it.
Yeah, so if they're giving us false information, then they're reporting it correctly.
Well,
or
I don't
incorrect.
think it's false, but it's information that they're not accurate on how to do.
We've nailed that down, obviously, from Cahin to get those numbers, so.
I'm not satisfied with it.
Okay,
It might be 40, but I'd like to see proof, and we never had it before that. And I couldn't get it from anybody. Couldn't get it from the state county auditor or from Mortimer. And it had to do with their $1 million payroll. When they reached $1 million payroll, then this tax came out.
Yeah, Mark met with Mr. Detweiler, and that's how it was agreed. Detweiler
Well,
presented these
That
numbers.
doesn't make it right in my estimation,
Yeah.
because they never came up with a conclusive answer. Neither did Mark. So, okay.
all right. We'll take it
That's
up
my feeling
later.
on that.
Well, and if the numbers change, sir,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
council,
mark it down.
you can absolutely amend the recovery plan. Right now, you've just put this recovery plan based on the information you have at this time.
That's right.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So just because it's in here, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to pay.
But sometimes when it's in there, it never goes away.
Fortunately, I can't address that. I will leave that, you know, to
I
village
understand.
council and your
I didn't
solicitor.
expect it to address my comment.
Okay, and when you're looking at this, if you go to the other financing sources under the 2017 actual, you will notice that you did receive $203,000 and $203,058, and that was Mr. Johnson's, what you got from all his property. Going on down, I want to draw your attention back to 2016 towards the bottom. You had started the year at $299,000, and then we did a fund balance adjustment through that reconciliation. And it's a negative $650,000 adjustment for all the activity that we had found. So that's where it threw you negative by $400,000 to $406,000. Then in 17, you ended the year, you were negative $62,229. But during 16 and 17 is when that 25% that was set aside for capital improvements, which I believe was going into the street fund, all of a sudden started coming back to the general fund. So that reduced this big deficit by quite a bit, because in 17 you got $170,000 in. So leaving all numbers the same, you come to 18, we are projecting a $19,374 positive balance. We're like, great, that looks good. Let's flip the page.
Yeah, but
we know that there is a deficit because you have $315,000 worth of income tax that was for capital improvements sitting in the general fund.
Those dollars, village council did not pass the resolution to basically undo that restriction on those dollars until January of this year. So you've built into your plan moving those monies back to a capital improvement plan because there was no action taken permitting to put those dollars in the general fund until January of 18.
So this little section, this page here is where we inputted all the recovery plan items. The very first thing in 2018 column, under Vicki Sheets, the 35,000 is her bond. Courtney did check. The village will be getting the $35,000 bond.
But it will not go in the general fund, correct?
It will go to the general.
will.
fund.
That
She's a fiscal officer. Your
She-
physical officer stuff stays in general. So
Yeah.
mayor,
Really?
council, physical officer, stays in general. Like if you were to get Bonnie's or somebody
Yeah,
else's,
yeah.
those would go into the water and the sewer that they were paid out of.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
The
Go ahead.
money you get goes back to the fund where the person was paid from.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Vicki was paid out of the general fund, it goes there. Mr. Neff, he had court said he owes $9,500, he should be paying that soon, I would think. He was the mayor, he was paid from the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
Lana Cydrus, she had a $1,953 fine. The village will be getting a bond for her, that amount. So those are what we know for 18 on that. Your income tax, that 25% you made the change. We broke it out because up until January when we did the budget, it was still 25%. It was a recovery item. So the 25% is $165,000 for 2018. That all goes to the general fund because the line right below it is 0. That's when you look at 19, you said 3% of all the income tax is going to go to capital improvements. So when you look at 19, well, it increased, but you also have 21,300 that is now going to be for capital improvements. So that's what we did for the remaining years. As income went up, and your percentages went up, we increased the percentage to be used for capital improvements.
I got a question. No matter what happens, then all that money, no matter what, goes to general fund, no matter what we do?
You mean the income tax?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
For this year.
For this
Okay.
year.
Oh, for this year. Okay.
This year.
Next
That's
year-
what I need to know. Yeah.
Yeah, next year, 97% of your income tax you receive will go to the general fund.
Okay. I wanted to get
Yeah,
clear of that because I wanted to make sure. That's why I was.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
That's what the minus underneath that amount, so when you
Okay.
the next line down.
Okay.
says It basically, here's. what
Okay.
we're
I
taking
just
it
wanted to
out.
make sure because it didn't sound clear to me until I
Yeah, no,
read that.
we're
Okay.
taking it out. That's
Okay,
why this
okay.
is needed. Just on under 18, under remove prior year capital income tax amounts. That 315,000 needs to go to a capital improvement fund. So it will come out of the general fund. There will be a transfer to a capital improvement fund.
Right.
To get this out of there so we aren't making your general fund balance look better than what it actually is. And then the next line beneath that is the reinstate contract with for park maintenance. That's the agreement where you're going to have the person maintain the park. It was $13 an hour for 15 hours a week. You times that out for the year, it was $10,000. It's actually reducing your fund balance because of its expenditure. That's why it's negative on here. The 26,000, that was the ODNR grant. That was what you got back for that ODNR grant. And then here's the 116,000. That was the agreed upon payment to the school district.
All right, now there's another point. Because we're not so sure about the $1 million payroll in the years 15 and 16 and 17. That needs to be checked out because
That's what your legal counsel,
I know what he says. And I believe, I'm not ready to tell you right now, he's wrong. And I'm telling him that. Because 15 and 16 and 17 was a different issue. They never made the $1 million payroll. Okay?
I understand.
I know.
And we'll let council work that out with your solicitor.
Well,
but
I'm
it's
going to work
still-
it out with him.
There still needs to be something built in your recovery
Right.
plan, and that's what your mayor and fiscal officer's done. They've built it in. Does that mean that this is the exact amount you're gonna pay? Absolutely not. It's the best
I know,
estimate they
I
have.
know, but if we don't say something about it now, it gets washed and covered up in the wash. And I'm here to say that that's enough, we've had enough of that stuff.
Well, because you have, and I guess I can speak to that, because you, like you said, you've worked on it for several years prior.
Yes.
Like I said, that will be a conversation that we would involve you if you have that history
Good.
with Mark.
I don't have the history, but I have enough of it.
But we can collectively discuss that, just like what April and Jim is saying.
Right.
For right now, that's what's been built in because
I
those are the numbers
understand
you
it,
got.
but I don't want it to get
Yeah.
lost in the
That's right.
shuffle.
And we will not, and I will not let it.
And you've got the history now,
Yes.
so you can stay on it
I will.
and fight with me.
Yes.
But Mark knows better than that, because the year 15 and 16, they didn't accomplish $1 million payroll. I'm giving you history now. So that is wrong, and that makes the 40,000 whatever. I don't know what it is. No one seems to know because they, well, I'll stop. They don't seem to be able to grasp what they are doing with that money or how to figure it. Mark will figure it one way, and Mortimer, if you can get him tied down, will figure it another way, and the county auditor, Courtney knows, doesn't know what we're talking about, right?
We'll get it taken care of though. Collectively, we will, like you said, you have history on it. We have our legal counsel that is going to obviously make that decision. And
Well,
your
he's not going to make the
decision-
decision that this is correct. He knows that's not correct.
Okay, but we can discuss that.
Okay, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it. Talk about it later. We'll get it straightened out.
Yeah,
We'll
that
find
is
out.
What we know as of now.
Yes.
It changes,
Right.
We'll adjust the plan if need be. The next line is the payment to the county for property taxes. The village has some parcels of land that you haven't filed the paperwork to get exempt from taxes. You owe, it's about $1,600, but we did $2,000 because in the prior year there was more parcels. In case something pops up, let's.
Fees.
Yeah.
Because they weren't paid last year.
Yeah.
They
And
should
then-
not have been paid because Mark did not do the paperwork on that.
I got it taken care of. That's already on my list.
Okay, we should be getting that money back.
Well, you wouldn't get it back.
Yes, yes. If
These
the
were
fee-
never paid in last year at all.
When did you get the 2,000 paid?
It was never paid.
You haven't.
We received the
yet.
actual invoices to say you failed to pay
All
your
right,
taxes
so
from
they,
last year.
we didn't pay it.
So it'll wash out once he removes that and has those waived.
Once
This
they're waived,
$2,000, I'll go back out to Jim and say, listen, here's legislation from Mark. He says that these are going to be waived. We as a village are not responsible for that. And then again, we adjust it with them. But right now, it's showing that we owe it
Right.
because it hasn't been taken care of. And we have to show it here because they were not waived. And plus you got penalties and interest on that. That's why we've raised it to $2,000 because they're going to charge you penalties and interest because it was never paid from last year.
but Mark has worked and worked and worked on that and never completed the paperwork. And he knows that. I'm ready to tell him that too.
Too bad he's not here.
We'll tell him.
Well, it doesn't make
Okay.
any difference to me because I would tell Mark.
All right.
Yes, I'm on it. We will collectively speak with him.
We'll take care of it.
He knows that.
And moving on,
Yep.
we do have the transfer to the Moving Ohio Forward Fund. We'll do that here this year, so that fund's taken care of. And then you had where you eliminated the clothing allowance for the clerk. That was a $350 savings. Well, it was something. We showed it.
Right.
So when you look at it for 18, from this perspective, with all this recovery items, your general fund balance will be a deficit $223,000. But if you stick to this recovery plan as it is, by the end of 2019, you should end up with a positive balance of $347.
Hey, it's positive.
It's positive.
It's in the positive. That's what matters.
You know, will you be able to go at the start of January 1st, 2020 and say, we request to come out, fiscal emergency, The committee would probably say, let's wait and see. So that's why when we did the UAN fees, we waited until 2021. Because at the end of 2020, you should have a $177,000 positive balance. Let's get the village on really sound financial footing.
Basically, by 2019, then we'll be seeing some daylight at least.
Yes.
That's the key thing. Yeah, instead of being in the other, it sounds good. Definitely.
Yes, you should be seeing the
Okay.
light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And it's not a train.
They are looking.
With doing this, hopefully the council will get used to doing this, and you will continue this out from here to eternity, and you will be able to see. It'll be a great tool actually to learn
Exactly.
from, and do it from here on out and teach new members as they come on. And keeps you looking forward to where if something does happen coming up down the road, or you want to do a big major project, hey, we got money, we're saving up, we, use this as a projection tool for the future.
Exactly.
So that's it. If you flip the page, the last page, 14, this is the Moving Ohio Forward Fund. It's deficit. The recovery plan, transfer the money. Once you transfer it in 18, the deficit goes away. That fund's taken care of.
One thing I do want to point out as far as the recovery plan goes, you are also undergoing an audit currently, and that audit is not finished. So once that audit, your financial audit is actually released, they may have some more adjustments, and we will work with you to incorporate those into your plan. And depending on what those adjustments are, you may have to submit a revised recovery plan. But again, you are not in that position yet. That audit's not complete.
Basically, then everything ain't set in stone yet until we go through this audit. Is that what this way?
Right. I mean, your recovery plan is good, the way that you've put it together. You've addressed everything that needs addressed as far as 11806. I'm just letting you know that there may be adjustments to increase or decrease your general fund balance depending on the finding of the audited.
Okay.
And they just filed for another extension today.
Oh, they did?
So it'll be in March.
Is it through the end of March?
Yep.
Okay.
Very good.
Any questions?
Well, again, we want to thank you folks because you guys really took a look at a lot of things, and this report makes you put a lot of time and effort into this, and working with Jim, going through every line item and trying to make sure that everything, was accounted for as it should be, and also Mayor Martin too. He had a lot of involvement in this. So thank you guys for making our job easy. It's easy for us to take what you tell us and put it in a format for you. That's the easy part. You guys have the hard part.
I know it's been quite a struggle. I know on the finance committee, but we've been going through it. Sometimes it seems like it's the road of no hope, but you always see that little sunrise there. So we're no getting there. So
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, definitely,
Ah,
definitely.
You're quite welcome. That's what our job is. That's
yeah, I'll tell you, I don't know what we'd do without you two sitting out there.
I told them, yeah.
But the good thing, you've put in all this hard work. This will help you when it comes time later to put your budget for 19 together.
Definitely.
And so you've kind of already got it done.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you so much,
And just
hon.
it's like to kind of, mimic what Billy said. It's great to have you guys here because I know I utilize them. I know that, we're in good contact with each other if something comes up, and I don't think it could have been a better time, having, new people come on, like they said, is best practices too. So is that something that you guys are going to kind of talk to us about what the best practices? Is that what's next after this?
After the recovery plan is, we should talk about that. So after your recovery plan is submitted to the commission and is approved, the other thing that we do is we work on a report on accounting methods, and that's where we will look at the methods that the village follows compared to what's in Ohio Revised Code or Ohio Administrative Code. And honestly, we probably won't get started real deep into that until the latter part of May, but that will be another report that we'll put together, saying, yes, you're doing it correctly, or no, you're not. I can just tell you from my limited time here, a lot of things have already been corrected, so don't be surprised that there, you may not get some comments that you think you would, just because they've been corrected during the course of Jim and I working with Courtney and getting things on the right track. But that report will probably come out later in the fall, hopefully, and when it gets time to come out of emergency or request release, all those comments have to be clear, because like we like to say, you want the divorce from us, not the separation.
Well, I was this past year, I was in Cincinnati, and I had to be there for a meeting, so I'm there, and I told them I was from the village of Mount Sterling. It's on the council. Said, "Oh, we heard about you on the Cincinnati news." I mean, this gets scary. I'm just glad we're going the other way now.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. I'm sorry. Are you? All right. I have a motion on the floor to place this on first, second, third reading. Any other comments?
Well, I have Rebecca and Tammy. Yeah.
I did do a roll call is what I need.
Lowell?
We're placing it on the first, second, and third reading.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes?
Tom?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
And Becky?
Yes.
I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
Have that motion, sir.
Second. Thank you. Tom.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Laryngitis.
Same
Poor
crowd.
Tom.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Anderson?
I vote yes with hesitation. Now you
Tom?
put it in there any way you want.
Yes.
I'm not satisfied with this, but I know that we can change this.
We can.
We can.
Yes.
We will. David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
And Becky?
Yes.
So resolution 2018-15 has been passed.
Correct.
Next item on your agenda, ordinance 2018-16. This is a ordinance amending the 2018 budget and make appropriations for current expenses of the village of Mount Sterling in Madison County, Ohio, during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. The purpose is implementing a 5-year financial plan, which we just went over, to ensure the financial sovereignty of the village of Mount Sterling and declaring this an emergency. So with that said, I will need a motion to suspend the rules for 2018-16. Yes, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Lowell?
Yes?
Tom?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Now I need a motion to place this on the first, second, and third reading.
You have that motion, sir.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Thank you. Roll call.
Lowell?
Yes?
Tom?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
I need a motion to vote passage of ordinance 2018-16.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it. Sorry.
Okay. Roll call.
Becky?
I have a question.
Call. All right. Hold.
Why are we not receiving these by email anymore?
Mark just has been sending those to me, and I put them out in your guys' packet. So since the special meeting happened, he was on vacation this time. So he did it from Georgia.
This one's from Georgia.
Yes.
We were.
We did not have those. I could only send them to you guys, tell you what you're going to be voted on, and then that's why they're placed on your desks today.
We were in the middle of.
You
Pardon?
ready for my vote
Yes.
now? Are we voting now?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Motion passed.
But if we have another meeting,
Comments?
and I don't have this, and it's going to lift the meeting, I will not vote on it, because we've been used to having this ahead of time. Now, you can smile all you want to over there, but I'm not going to vote for it.
I will let Mark know to forward those all out to you. But today was kind of a last minute kind of deal. He was on vacation, so he only had limited access for the Wi-Fi, so. That's why the email was followed.
Any other comments? Meeting's adjourned.
Now, do we need to sign this
Yes.
Right
You want me to go
now.
ahead and pass it around? Okay.
before people leave? We need to
Yes.
sign
If
this.
you guys, council members, need to stay, this will have to be signed.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and give the original to April and Jim, and then this is what's gonna be sent to the commission. So if you guys can sign the copy, that would be great.
Now, I signed the back copy, right?
Yeah, you'll sign where it, yeah,
Here.
sign above that one.
But on that copy.
I would probably save it too. I would sign
Hey,
both of them.
Courtney, since I'm on that commission, do I need to sign it in 2 places? I'm on the commission.
Do you want them to sign both?
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Good meeting you. I'm glad you explained
Okay.
everything.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you very much.
Good meeting you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you very much.
Since I'm on that commission, do I need to sign
I
this?
would, no, not sign that until the actual.
Got it. I'll just sign the council then.
Until the commission.
So good to see you. Thank you so much, April.
Most welcome.
Thank
You are most welcome.
For everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you won't sign, they'll sign this side, but you won't sign that until they've approved it, commission.
I don't sign this.
Well, I'm passing this around.
He needs to sign that one.
Yes.
Get that autograph.
He needs to sign.
And inside the.
You want to hand this over there?
We can be facilitated.
Do you want him to sign on the front of this too?
Right
Because he's
here.
gonna sign in the middle too.
Okay.
You need to sign here. You voted.
I sign right here.
You had to be a Miami or higher graduate.
something?
A what?
I bet you went
Just
to
signed
Miami.
it.
It was kind of like a sort of.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
went to UC.
Oh, yeah.
That didn't work for
Yeah, we're gonna
them.
want your signature.
Oh, imagine.
Page 6.
You know, Oxford always had that country house.
But you know what? I had
Right
a
here
couple
on the
of
front.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother John, he's a professor at the University of South Carolina. He graduated from there. And we travel around.
No, that one is-
We got a rock and roll show we do in the summer, so I go from
Sign the other
politician
side.
to rock.
They're all gonna sign it.
And this seems different.
Have a copy.
It does. I have a lot of fun with it.
Okay.
Or documentation.
Okay,
Whatever
very
you
good.
want to copy of the sign.
I appreciate you explaining everything too.
Anything else to
I'm the
sign?
keeper of all record right now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Catering binder, by the time I'm done, I'll probably have 2 or 3 of them.
I can
For
believe
just us.
I can believe it.
I've got a township, I've got 2 of them.
5, yeah.
Here it is. I
There
just
we
can't
go.
flip the pages fast
Bold,
enough.
right there. We always did get emails on these, like these.
Report on the town, that takes- we'll write
You didn't get them this time.
As you get them completed.
Thanks, huh?
I know.
I'm gonna take down application just so she
Be careful going home.
Some say,
Well, it's still daylight a little bit.
I can say.
It'll be dark by
"Well,